New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome to another Sunday inspirational message here at True Thought Spiritual Community. We appreciate you being here, and also like to give a shout out to the New Thought Media Network. They'll be also sharing our content on their channel, New Thought Media Network on YouTube. So before we begin, let's just come together for a moment of silence and let's join with a good deep breath. So it is with profound gratitude and thanks that we call forth this inspirational message, and we ask to be guided by Spirit, we ask to be joined by Spirit, and we ask the host of angels, guides, loved ones, and family to join us here in this message this morning. And so it is. Well, I'm glad to be back with you. I am Brother T, one of the co-founders, along with my wife, Reverend A, of our True Thought Spiritual Community. And I'm excited to be back with you this morning, in particular because it's Mother's Day. And so I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And we've been tracking along with the keys to the kingdom. And today I wanted to kind of open the door for the third key to the kingdom, which is allowance. And so allowance and mothers really goes together very, very well, actually. I think there are tremendous learning opportunities, spiritual learning opportunities, if we really begin to dig in a little bit about our relationships with our parents. Okay, so in particular, our mother today brings forth some very interesting points that I think can be expressed and discovered for us to grow spiritually. But the Gospel of Thomas, which was discovered not so long ago, had a passage in there, and we quote that once in a while. We refer to it once in a while, and it's where the disciples were asking Jesus, "Well, Jesus, how will we know when we're at the end?" And he said, "Well, you're at the beginning then." And so, in other words, we have to go back to the beginning. And so, what better way to go back to the beginning than to go back to our relationship with our mother, the very first person in this incarnation that we had a relationship with. And we're always talking about joining and union and relationship with Spirit, and of course, with our brothers and sisters. And of course, what better way to look at this as an example, as a metaphor and an analogy, and all the things that show up for us in our relationships with our mother. And every one of us here, everyone, if you're hearing my voice, every one of us here, came into this incarnation through a relationship with their mother, good or bad, whatever it is, that's how you came into this experience. So I'd like to kind of flip things a little bit today, maybe speak a little bit on the side of maybe a way we haven't thought about our relationship with our mother before, but think about it this way, if you will. Before you came here, you were literally, I'm going to say, standing in line, raising your hand, saying, I want to go there. I want to be incarnated in physical form. And that was your choice. And in that choice, you had lots of options. And you chose your mother. You chose your mother and father and the relationship that you would have with them. And how would you choose that? You would choose that based on a vibrational frequency of consciousness that matched up and that would give you a platform of growth and development in this life, and would show you the fastest way to attain enlightenment. Now, if we look at it from that perspective, and we go back and look at our parents and say, look, I chose my parents. it's not a game of chance. At that point, this is where we're making a conscious, evolved consciousness choice with our guides and mentors beyond the veil, metaphysically, if you will, beyond the physical, before we come into this incarnation. So, why did you choose your mother? That's a big question, right? That's a really important question. Why did you choose your mom and dad? And can you look back at your relationship with them, short or long or lifelong or however long it is existed? And what kind of a relationship did you have and what did they provide you? But the relationship that we have with our parents, and I think our mothers in particular, really help us to see the importance, the metaphysical importance of reaching a level of allowance and acceptance. And I think our mothers and grandparents, grandmothers in particular, show us some amazing examples and set of very amazing examples for us, for allowance and acceptance. So I'd like to share a little bit of a story of my own mother. And so I want to say thank you, Mother, for allowing me to choose you to come into this incarnation. And I hope she gets a chance to hear this. She was born in 1932. And so almost 90 years ago now. And she and my dad, they had 10 children. They had 5 boys, 5 girls. Okay. So I just want to tell her story a little bit and point out some of the examples of acceptance and allowance. So right off the bat, the whole purpose of marriage, the whole purpose of that vibration of love and joining in union and relationship is creative. And we spring forth from that. And as having 10 children, I was the second child, but I was the first boy in the family. And my mother has already survived 2 of her sons, and all of her daughters are still alive now. And she's still very, very active and still, a very big part in leading as a matriarch our family, which continues to grow, sometimes exponentially in some years, because my nieces and nephews and they're having their children now, and it just keeps growing and growing. I think she has somewhere around 15, 16 grandchildren and close to 20 now great-grandchildren. And there's some great-great-grandchildren on the way already. So that's how, family continues to grow, right? That's the lineage that her and my dad began with. But what I want to talk about is allowance and acceptance. So think about it as a parent, as a mom, just the willingness to receive and to express love, the willingness to allow birth to come through them, for us to be incarnated through them is really an amazing gift of love, is it not? It really is. It's an amazing gift of love when we think about it. And when we are in the womb, we don't have any concerns whatsoever. We're completely nurtured. There's a lot of metaphoric examples there about, there's no wants. You have nothing that everything that you want is given, And then we find ourselves in this experience. And before we realize it, we're starting to realize that we are in form. And who do we have our very first relationship with? Well, sure, if we're fortunate, our dad's around. But also, if we're fortunate, our mother is the primary caregiver. And mothers tend to be naturally geared towards nurturing. And so my mom, I think, was very nurturing and cared for us very, very much. And so when we think about how we used to play at our mom's feet, we would be there and they would nurture us and provide food for us and clothing and just take care of us endlessly until we could begin to take care of ourselves, which takes about 20 years based on what I've experienced with my children. I have 2 children now, and I also have 4 grandchildren as a result of that, and my family continues to grow. But I want to say that my mother continued to set an example for our whole family of loving and nurturing, and I think allowing and accepting. And her mother was the same way, where I look back on both of these women in my life and see that regardless of what I would do or not do, for the most part, they were very allowing and accepting of my behavior. And they helped me in so many ways by being the witness, by being the messenger, by being the example in my life of what I could be as a loving father, as a loving person to those around me in my life. So this goes back a long ways, right? Quite a ways now. But the point is that parents have to be allowing and accepting of their children. And what they really, I believe, need from us more than anything as well is to be allowing and accepting of our parents. And we're not always that. There's been times when I wasn't allowing and accepting. And there was times when she wasn't allowing and accepting of me or my behavior or my wishes and wants. But at the end of the day, she always championed me for whatever ultimately that I would want. And she would always be there for me when I would reach milestones in my life to give me a gratitude, a note of thanks and support in multiple ways. And I hope that you, if you're hearing this message, that you made a choice for yourself and you were able to discover through your relationship with your mother that allowance and acceptance is unbelievably important in our spiritual pathway. It opens the door to humility, really. And so when I think about what it was like to grow up in a family of 10 kids, the stories should just go all over the place. And I could probably talk for a long time, and I'm not going to do that this morning. But it really was about, for me as the firstborn son, to be there for her as much as possible because there was so much demand on her. And so she allowed and accepted me to be who I wanted to be in my efforts to support her and support the family. She allowed me to be who I wanted to be when I made choices not to be there. And I went off to the Navy as an example, and I made choices to get out of the house, right? And she allowed and accepted me to make the choices in my own life. She allowed and accepted me to make choices for the relationships that I had in my life, and still today allows and accepts me to be who I am as a grown man. And I just want to say, Mother, I love you. Thank you so much for being who you are and for allowing and accepting me as I am. Now, on a spiritual level, this is so important because it opens this door of humility. And number one, this is the example right out of the gate, right, so to speak, that we have, that we know that we did not create ourselves. No matter how big this ego gets, that we create ourselves in and through, and we believe we've created our life and we've done everything. We can point no further than our mother to see, we wouldn't be here without our mother. We wouldn't be here without our parents. We wouldn't be here without that act of joining in relationship that they had in whatever way it was. And I'd like to just add to that, we wouldn't have made that choice unless we saw an opportunity for ourselves to grow spiritually in our relationship with them. And I believe too, and what I've learned from our spiritual work and the teachings that have come through in the last many decades, is that we circulate around and again in family clusters. And so I don't know how many times my mother and I have been in a relationship. I don't know how many times I've been her child, or maybe she's been my child. I don't know how many times we've been siblings together. I don't know, and that doesn't matter. But in this life, my mother, the choice that I made, set a great example for me about relationship. And that's what I needed to know, I think, more than anything else in this incarnation for myself. Relationship. You cannot be separate. We are all and must be in recognition of relationship. Our relationship with God ultimately is the only real relationship, but our relationship with our parents is a relationship with God, because if you and I are one with God, then our parents are one with God. So when we have a relationship with our parents, we're having a relationship with God. We're having a relationship with their higher self, which is in relationship with God. And it's all circuitous, but it always brings us back to a relationship in love, ultimately. And man, love, how can we speak any more highly about the best opportunity that any of us have to experience unconditional love, which means love without condition, is to be as a parent. Now, if you don't have any children, that's not to say that you've missed out on anything, because we can have those relationships with our parents of unconditional love, and we can also have those kinds of relationships with our pets and our spouses and those kinds of things as well. I'm just pointing out that the best chance we have to experience unconditional love is as a parent. Because as a parent, we look beyond the actions and the behaviors of our children, and we allow and accept them as they are. And this is really important, because if we can do it with one, we can do it with another. When we get to a certain point in our spiritual growth, we can begin to see that there's no lines or levels or degrees of separation. There's no lines or levels or degrees of love. Love is. Love has no attributes. Love is. So in every relationship we have, we could say, oh, I have a holy relationship with my mother. And what is a holy relationship? Well, being an incredible friend and going to God first before we are joined in that relationship and before we act and react in that relationship. But when we are in relationship, and especially with our parents as we're growing up, I can point to many times when I was absolutely not allowing and accepting of how my parents wanted me to be or how they wanted me to act or the limitations I felt like that they were putting on my behavior. I look back now and see, quite clearly that that was for my own benefit. I can also see that now in their elder years, my parents look to me to also be allowing and accepting of their wishes and wants. They would look to me for guidance, but at the same time, they also looked to me to be as they were when I was younger, nurturing, allowing, and accepting, embracing and loving, and joining in union and relationship. And so when I was younger, like all kids, I wanted my parents, I wanted my mom to see me when I was doing anything that I wanted her to be proud of me, joining in union and relationship. I wanted her to accept me as I was, allowance and acceptance. I wanted my grandmother to see me when I was doing anything that I wanted her to be proud of me, to see me join with me in union and relationship. I wanted her to see me in whatever I was doing, that I was doing something that was loving or doing something that I could be prideful of, something that I could be seen for as a good boy or whatever, that she would allow and accept me to live out my wishes and dreams as a young boy and later in life as a teenager, and certainly later in life as a man. I was blessed that my grandmother lived to be in her 90s, and my mother now is almost 90 years old, and we have a wonderful relationship, and I wish that blessing with you. But the final point, I think, is even in the passing of our parents, they're again asking for us to accept and allow. I believe that we graduate from every incarnation, that each and every incarnation is an opportunity to grow to a point of connection with spirit that exceeds and transcends this idea of separation altogether. And that our parents give us that foundation. That's why we've chosen them. There are no accidents. We've chosen them, and because we've chosen them, they have given us that platform if we would but take advantage of it. You know, we get kind of stuck in the manifestor manipulation level 2 consciousness, but when we get higher, and our parents, I think, has particularly let us get into the next level, which is, I call it the level of love, but it's really the channeling level of channeling, where we really are joining in union relationship. I feel like I can be with my father who has transitioned already and join with him in that consciousness. And when I think of him, I can know that we're connected. And I feel the same way with my mother right now, even though she's in physical form, especially during COVID. I would think of her often, and I would visit with her in my mind and spend time with her there. And I hope to go spend time with her even today and spend a little time here on Mother's Day. I'm so glad that things are opening up, and I hope you're getting a chance to spend time with your parents, especially your mother on Mother's Day. But if you're not, you can do that still. If we don't constrict ourselves and contract ourselves and force ourselves into believing that the only way to live is through physical experience, and begin to understand that we are much more than the physical experience, that our mind can open up to the limitlessness of connection and the joining and union and relationship. Our parents love us and we love them, and they expressed it as best they could in any way they could, even if it was making tough decisions and making an opportunity for us to have a better life when we were younger by not being with us. Even if it was to go ahead and transition earlier than we would want them to, and feel like they didn't live a good life or a full life or a long life, because that is a lesson. Everything is a lesson in this experience. And those are gifts that they've given us. And all of those gifts are also asking us to accept and allow. So today I want to accept my mother as who she is and say, thank you, Mother, so much. God bless you for who you are. I love you so very much. She's lived such a wonderful and full life and set so many wonderful examples and a few bad ones. Our parents teach us how to be and how not to be, do they not? So do our siblings, and so do all those in our lives. But today is Mother's Day. So today, let's celebrate Mother's Day. And if you have an opportunity, give your mother a hug, and let's do that right now. Let's take a good deep breath. Let's close our eyes. Let's think about that beloved one. And so let's give that one a deep expression of our gratitude, our thanks, and accept and allow their choices to be okay. Let's give them that love right now. Let's close our eyes. We are all so blessed. We're all so uniquely blessed. And we have made these choices. There are no accidents. We've made the choice of the parents that we have. And we can make the choice to love them and accept and allow them regardless of how they've shown up in our lives. A lot of people feel like they have parent issues. But when we reach a certain point in our spiritual journey, we can begin to see that we get to make the choice. We have the power to pull back judgment, to withhold judgment, to go back before we gave judgment. We have the power to see through the eyes of humility that our parents have given us a gateway into an expression and an opportunity for enlightenment and love, and rejoin in our Father God, Mother, Father God, in truth, to rejoin love in spirit, beyond the physical, and to attain enlightenment. And it's happening for so many people. And I want to say thank you to all the mothers out there, young and old, for the blessings that you've given us all, to give us an opportunity to have this chance for enlightenment in this life, this very special time in the history of humanity. And so it is. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, moms. Love you everywhere, and have a great week. We hope to see you again soon here at True Thought Spiritual Community. Thank you for your support, your blessing of love. And so it is. Amen.
All that I am today, all that I bring today, I know that it's enough.